Welcome to IAG Talks, a place where we break down barriers, share resources, take you behind the scenes, and offer empowerment for people with disabilities and the community that supports them.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to IAG Talks. Today, we have the privilege of featuring an inspiring individual, Jennifer Daly, whose remarkable career path and dedication to making a difference in her community has left an indelible mark. Jennifer Daly is a multifaceted professional with a rich, diverse employment history. She began her journey as a literary teacher at El Cuatro Año, an alternative high school in Chicago under the Association House of Chicago. There, she imparted invaluable English composition skills to her students, setting the foundation for a career dedicated to education and community service. Recognized for her exceptional contributions, Jennifer received an award from Chicago Women's Magazine as 100 Women Making a Difference, specifically for her groundbreaking work at the Chicago Anti-Hunger Federation, where she focused on employing those who often face barriers in the job market. Jennifer's impactful journey continues at Individual Advocacy Group, where she is the Director of Employment and has opened so many doors for the people that we serve and has really stuck out as a true advocate in community employment. So we are so excited to have Jennifer with us today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. All right. So let's talk a little bit about employment and disabilities. Can you just tell us how people, just give us a little bit of background on it?
So the best way to give background on it is to kind of go from the government point of view. The government federal and state has invested a tremendous amount of money in employment for individuals with disabilities. When they are in high school, a tremendous amount of money has been put into transitional programs for when they leave high school, that they will be more employable. Even though all those things have happened, the employment rate still for adults with intellectual disabilities is it's just horribly low. And not only that, there's an underemployment aspect to it. So we could have people who are employed that have intellectual disabilities, but maybe they're in a shelter workshop, or they're getting paid under the table, or their hours are goofy. It could be a million different reasons. So our goal at IAG is to get meaningful, competitive, integrated employment. And I'd say we're almost there in doing so, but it's very challenging.
When you say meaningful, can you elaborate on what that means?
Sure. So just like an individual without a disability, people who work have some more self-esteem, financial independence, socialization skills. Their quality of life is significantly better than the unemployed. And it's even that more in the case of adults with disabilities, especially intellectual disabilities. It's kind of the class of people who aren't very much advocated for in the labor force. And so meaningful to me is something that's going to impact the quality of their life. And it's not just finding a job at KFC, even though those are great jobs. It is finding something that they want to do. It's customized employment. It's something, all because someone has an intellectual disability doesn't mean they don't have preferences of where they would like to be during the day or what they want to do during the day. And so all because we haven't had a good history of asking them what they want to do. And so one of my goals is always finding something that they want to do, not just a job.
Oh, I love that.
So meaningful to me is like the key to all of this. Because our people at IAG are going to be taken care of with or without employment, but the added bonus of having employment is just this quality of living that is better. And I have someone who I wasn't sure would ever work, and now he's training people on the job that he's been at. So it's so the quality of his life, and he's so proud when he comes in. You can see the change in it.
Yeah. It definitely changes when you're living a life in alignment, doing things that you enjoy. So
yeah, it's a job. So don't get me wrong, not everyone's all excited every day to go to work.
Right.
Just like us. But there is a level of acceptance and appreciation that they have an opportunity to work too, that they haven't. A lot of our people are a little bit older and haven't been in the system to where employment was really encouraged back in the day. So it's also a really new way to look at it for older adults.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's another way to just have access to the community, build relationships, which is so important.
Yes. Well, and then also we have some amazing employers that treat all their employees well, disability or not. They have Christmas parties, they have gift exchanges, like welcome back parties. It is such an opportunity for our folks to be able to do things that they normally don't get to do and adapt to doing those things and become more successful at doing those things as well. So before, maybe if there was a Christmas party, I'd kind of stick around the back, make sure everything was good. Depending on who goes now, I have a lot more faith in people's behaviors because it's continually reinforced that the better they do on the job, the more fun things they kind of get to do, like go to the Christmas party without me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that just generalizes for any adult, So
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the challenges that you see in the workforce for people with a disability, like wanting to work or wanting to do something meaningful for them?
The biggest thing I have found is the application process. So we all are totally used to going online and applying and kind of getting some immediate feedback about interviews and things like that. The internet has not been kind to our adults with disabilities. For instance, if you can't read or write, you might not be able to get on the computer. I know, so an example might be at Home Depot. I have a gentleman who'd be a great aisle sweeper, janitor, great with the trash, good cleaner. But if he can't go online and fill out the application, does that mean he shouldn't get that job? And so it really does become kind of political about what are the options for some of our people who don't have access to the internet. Not everybody can afford a device to go on the internet. They can go to the library maybe, but if they can't read, they can't drive, how do they get to the library? I mean, there's barriers on barriers on barriers of layers of potential problems. But I have to say the biggest one right now is getting their foot in the door if they didn't have someone like me. Like if you have a child who has a disability and you're not part of an agency or you don't get social services and you're trying to look for a job for them, how realistic is it that maybe a mother-daughter are going to try to find a job online if their reading skills are poor, or if she has no job history, or she can't remember her old boss or the address? I mean, there's so many things that are barriers. That's the biggest one right now for me.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it because when you think about accessibility, you think about transcription and things like that, but reading and writing and those fine motor skills, and that's a whole different layer.
One of my gentlemen who busses tables at Olive Garden does know how to read and write, but he certainly doesn't need to know how to do that to be a busser at Olive Garden. So why should he not have access to that job because he can't get on a computer and do that if he doesn't have someone like one of us helping?
Yeah, that's so interesting.
So there's a whole civil rights issue too that kind of plays into it. And so I know we work with Equip for Equality on some of the issues to try to get businesses to see that point of view, because they're really missing out on some of the best employees they ever have, because adults with disabilities can be the most dedicated, loyal employees. They won't leave you. They'll be there. Like the average, The average, I think, was maybe 3 to 5 years as an average job length for an adult with disabilities, which is huge in comparison to the regular labor force.
Yeah, which brings me to my next question. Before I jump into self-entrepreneurship, why is it important to offer opportunities for people with disabilities?
Well, it is. And some companies do a great job of figuring out how it can benefit them. So there's the Workforce Employment Act that will actually pay some of the individual's wages. So let's say I work with Restaurant A. Restaurant A has never hired anyone with disabilities. I can work with them to get them set up with the federal government to get some of the wages reimbursed for them. So there is, and I mean, it's a significant amount. I want to say it's over 20%. So it's significant. And also there's been numerous studies done, and I think we could testify to this, is when we go out and we see someone with a disability working somewhere, we look more kindly onto that business.
Yeah.
It usually generates a good feeling, like, oh, good job, right? But that person's working. It's not a freebie, give me a job. They are doing the duties they're supposed to be doing, but the public usually looks favorable on that. And so it's good customer service, public relations. I mean, we have some companies that will highlight our workers in their national magazines because there is that favorable outlook.
Yeah, I get that. And so what about those that like maybe want to go more of an unconventional route? So they don't want to work in retail or bussing tables, and they're like, hey, like I'm an artist and I'm really good at this. So how do you help them in that way?
Dr. Bennett, who's our CEO, is a huge proponent of the self-entrepreneurship. I am like way more traditional, and I like traditional job settings. But that's because I'm not artistic and all those other flavorful things that people can be. I'm not bringing that to the table. IAG does a really good job of finding individuals and what they're passionate about, and then being able to turn that around. And for instance, we have a gentleman up on the North Shore that he makes these amazing journals by like binding chapter books together. And he sells those then at like art fairs and things like that. But that takes a lot more work because his parents aren't taking him to the art fair. So we have to have a staff person and to make sure that all can happen, and just the implementation of that and what's in stock and what's he selling and how to keep track of that. So I think we do a really good job of looking for alternative methods of employment, not just traditional, so that we can include, because we want to be inclusive, we can include really everybody in that. In reality, though, there are some people that just may not want to work. They just may not.
People in life that may not want to work.
Right.
So disability or not.
100%. And so we run into a lot. And, or maybe they haven't grown up in a home that they've seen working parents, or grown up in an environment where work was a priority. And so it is sometimes reteaching and showing the priority of what work can do for someone, not just the financial aspect of it.
Yeah, because as we said, like there's so many other benefits and value to working outside of the financial aspect of
100%.
it. There's so many skills that get generalized to every other, portion of your life.
Yeah. Well, and it also, there might be more upfront training on hiring individuals with disabilities. There is probably going to be more upfront training, but the longevity of that employee and their loyalty and their commitment to the job is going to be like you haven't seen before. It's just at a whole different level. It's not always easy. Job maintenance is probably one of the hardest parts of the employment piece here, because we have a lot of medical issues, a lot of psychiatric issues, a lot of health issues, transportation issues, family issues. I mean, it's endless. And so the job maintenance is always challenging too.
Yeah. And so that's just the sustainability of a job when you're talking about job maintenance, or?
Yeah. And I look at job maintenance as, especially now after post-COVID, getting a job isn't really that difficult. If you can get online, have a resume, if you can do those things, it's not that difficult. But once you do those things, what does it look like on the job? some of our people would need one-on-one assistance. They've never been alone necessarily. So that's a one-on-one job coach. Who's doing that? Who's paying for that? Who's getting them there? You just start looking at the layers and the complexity of it. It's really not as easy as, okay, I'm going to go be a dishwasher at Burger King or Portillo's. There's a whole other like kind of background noise is what I call it. And that's the job maintenance. And that's doctor's appointments, anything that you could think of that we deal with.
Right.
They do too.
Well, I could just even thinking about myself and being a mom and all the doctor's appointments that always happen to be during the day,
Always.
So nothing is ever
imagine our nursing staff having to make appointments for those individuals that work that I say they cannot miss work because of a doctor's appointment. And so it is constant. Or we have a lot of people that go home on family visits, and that's a super huge priority. And so that sometimes can trump employment. We hope that we can work with the employer and the employer knows the importance of that. That's the other thing, is our relationships with the employer are critical.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to work out just like every hire. So you need to have good relationships and trusting relationships. I'm looking out for the best interest of our individuals, but I'm also looking for the employer. I don't want them to do me a favor by hiring any of our people. I want them, they need someone. I have someone that can do this. Let's go ahead and do it. So it's mutually beneficial.
Right. And I'm sure that you build that strong relationship. So whomever you're recommending, they're trusting that they're a good fit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. But it doesn't always go my way.
Yeah. As is life.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like I usually have a pretty good gut feeling about a few things or working with a few people, and been wrong a couple of times, but other times I've been pleasantly surprised.
Okay. So it's interesting because, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Employment really does change someone's outlook on almost everything during their day. And we know we're supposed to go to work, so we go to work. But people who don't have that ingrained in them don't realize really what they're missing out on.
Yeah.
And so there's so many other aspects to work that play into their lives that we don't think about, but are super important.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because there's so many different layers of barriers that come in. And so
transportation during COVID, I'm just going to bop in there. It drives me nuts. Pace used to do this great job of door-to-door service. Well, wasn't that great during COVID, and post-COVID things have changed. So, and our individuals that have disabilities I'm going to say maybe 1 in 10, if that could work from home. Most of these people are in jobs that are interacting with the community. So if you think about post-COVID and how that's affected the general population, it's impacted individuals with disabilities significantly more. Also, a job wants cross-training. So let's say you work at Aldi. Mm-hmm. Aldi, they want you to be a cashier. So you have to know how to use the cash register, which is a challenge for me, probably too. And stocking. So you have to be able to do inventory. That forklift needs to go through the aisle. And cleaning. So they want to hire one person to do those 3 things. I might have a person that's going to be great at cleaning or stocking, but they're not going to be able to use the cash machine. So that person's not even eligible. Post-COVID, that's become so much more because people are not working as much as they had. And so the workforce has seemed to shrink, and they want people to be able to cross-train and do more than one multitasking, which is possible, but the cash register is always a really good one because everyone's like, oh, go get a job at the gas station. Well, if you can't use the cash register, or if you're alone, people need supervision and help and training. And so it's an ongoing issue.
Yeah. That's really challenging. There's layers, like I just said, of layers of barriers that you shared on the individual's end, and employers even wanting to hire, but being able to create the environment that will
Right. I have so
nurture.
many people that say they want to hire our individuals, and they do. But then when they really get into the grit of it, of negotiating, it's a challenge. I need people who are kind, but still have high like work expectations. That no, they don't get a pass because they have a disability. They don't get like to behave in certain ways that would be unacceptable. I mean,
Right.
there's this, and as IAG, we are proud of kind of the people that we put out there. And so there's this level of expectation that our individuals will represent themselves with respect. And so it just becomes really muddy when you start getting into negotiations like that.
Yeah. So what if somebody doesn't have you in their corner, right? What if they're not an IAG,
Mhm.
somebody that gets supports or services through IAG and they have a disability, they're listening and they want to get into the workforce. We already listed a number, numerous
Oh,
barriers
good.
they can face. So do you have
Right.
any advice for?
Yes. So the one good thing is that our federal government is still dropping a load of money into the labor force for adults with disabilities working. And what that means is there's a lot more money in transitional services. So after high school, like in Illinois, you have a right to education until you're 21. You can graduate from high school and then go on to like a VOTEC or technical training center. Like there's one in out west called Blackhawk. And they maybe teach skills that will be able to be used more in a real world fashion for them. So my biggest thing is if you're under 21 and you live in Illinois and you're looking for employment or something in the meantime, because not everybody's ready for employment either right out of the gate, a
Right.
transitional program they would qualify for if they're under 21, even if they've already graduated from high school. The other thing, you really almost need like a negotiator. It's really hard for people to navigate this if they have an intellectual disability. Just think about clocking in, filling out a W-2, insurance, and they already have benefits. So you don't want to lose the benefits. So how many hours can I work? Where do I eat my lunch? Is there a special, do I get a break if I'm only working 3 hours? How does that work? What if I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of I mean, it's just endless. And so I think it's super important. You need to get a hold of Illinois Department of Human Services, the vocational, like it's called DOORS, DRS. They do a pretty good job of trying to put people with agencies that can help. It takes a little time, but if you really don't have anyone advocating for you, I would do that.
Okay.
And they could always go through doors and then ask for IAG.
Well, there you
So,
go. So IAG is willing to work with people in the community as well as.
oh yeah, we
Okay.
actually do. So we have our own, because we have SILAs and all these other programs. So at the beginning of this, we have our own kind of customer base. But as we're getting better and more effective at this employment thing, doors are not, they're referring people to us. So I've got a great guy that I work with out in Aurora who has some clients that have some more medical challenges, and he knows I work really well with them. So I am now getting referrals for people with intellectual disabilities, but some serious medical issues like an enlarged heart or a VNS. So tons of different stuff. So yeah, it is yeah, we at IAG we work with almost anybody that wants to get a job.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And I love that you brought up like medical issues too, because when we're talking about disability, there's, the mental health component, but there's also those physical disabilities that are challenging, like if you're wheelchair based or anything
Right.
like that.
And that's intimidating for me. I have worked with a tremendously diverse group of people in my career with employment. I haven't worked with a ton of people in a wheelchair, and I noticed I kind of was shying away from that because I didn't know the best way to handle it or how to coordinate it or how does PACE help us. Like it's kind of a different world. And so I recently had two individuals that are in wheelchairs, and we're kind of going through the process together of figuring out how some of this works together. Because if transportation is going to be an issue because of a wheelchair and you live in the suburbs, can you work past 5 o'clock? Does the bus come? Or there's some great places like Kendall County Transit that offers transportation for those people who live in Kendall County, for the elderly and the disabled. Awesome. $3 for a round trip ride. Incredible. They don't work Saturday or Sunday. They don't pick up past 6, I think. So a lot of jobs don't fit the mold that help with transportation. So it's tricky. IAG does an amazing job with the individuals who live in our SILAs of providing transportation. We're probably one of the only agencies that still do that, but I don't know how long that can continue on for either. So we need to start looking at some alternative methods. Sure. I would love to see like a young college kid come up with a great like Uber for adults with disabilities. Like they have like Go Grandparent. They have some others that I've worked with, but they are a business and they are there to make a profit. Right. And so this one client and I really worked hard on, we looked at Lyft, Uber, we looked at all of these places and we tried this one and we realized they really market it to the elderly and adults with disabilities because the drivers are like verified safer. You could track them. Like it's a good idea, but you realize how much more you're paying. And there's someone in college that can come up with this great app that I don't know how, we have to figure it out. That's safe and not like all about the profits. Yeah. So it's a challenge for somebody out there, I think.
You threw it out there. We'll be hearing about it happen in the near future, I'm sure.
There's someone out there who has an idea, but it's not popular because it's not going to be a big money maker.
Well, who knows? Maybe somebody will figure it out. But getting back to the workforce, when somebody comes to you, how do you kind of go through that process to find out what they're interested in and what they're capable of doing?
Sure. So we follow a customized employment model, which basically is very similar. Like there's a discovery phase. Discovery is me getting to know the person. What does this person want to do? What can this person do? Can this person operate a microwave? Can he cook on the stove alone? Can he be home alone? Can he cross the street? Can he go down a curb? Can he go up an escalator? I mean, it's just everything of me getting to know them so that we can make the most appropriate, successful choices together because we want to set them up for success. The worst thing that I could do is find them a position that I think is perfect and they have no interest.
Right.
Like, according to my, discovery and all of my charts, it looks like you should be doing this. And they're like, I don't want to do that. I want to work in a movie theater. So a lot of activities together. I used to, when I first started here, I would go to yoga with some of them and to see when interact with them in the car ride over. We'd go out and maybe get a soda or like just time together. So I could, lots of observations. And if the family is involved, I talk with the family as much as possible. A lot of our individuals don't have families involved and it's state guardians and they don't have the same background with the individual. So then it becomes my priority of getting to know them. And so we go through this huge, long process from phase 1 to phase 3, from discovery to job development to addressing any barrier potential issue. And that takes about up to 3 months. Okay. And then at that point is when we kind of hit it hard and start looking. I think I've been doing it a while enough. And with our population of people, they tend to say that they want to be like a dishwasher or work at the library. And I don't know if it's trained or they learned that at school, or they learned it somewhere. They don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
And so you ask them and they think they're telling you because they think they want to do that, but they don't want to. What if we get a job at a record store? Maybe it's just twice a week for a couple hours. Or what if you get a job at Macy's because you love clothes and you want to fold clothes? Like, there's so many things that we can do that my goal is always to kind of think out of the box and not do the traditional jobs.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that as a community at large, we all get that conditioning, right?
Like,
growing up,
yes.
well, my mom and dad say that I have to be a lawyer, and I absolutely hate everything about it.
Right.
So,
I hate washing dishes at home, but my parents want me to be a dishwasher at Olive Garden.
Yeah.
Well, why? I don't know. Well, that's what I have to do. Well, no. And then it can be a little, because the parents have been trained too in a way of what the expectation for their disabled child is. And that doesn't always play into what it should be. And so I hope we give people, and this is one of the things that I work closely with Dr. Bennett on when I was first hired, because this was super small when we first started, and it's grown into now state contracts and things like that, is that we give them the hope of this possibility that they can do more than what they're doing now and enjoy it. It's not always going to be easy. It might be uncomfortable, but there's more out there for them than going to a day program.
Yeah.
Or,
Well, it seems like through you and through working in the community, you're breaking down barriers in so many different ways, and even, changing the narrative of what they thought their projected life was supposed to look like, to give them the autonomy to make a decision. I know, like, yes, this is the expectation, but this is what I want for myself.
Right. I have some older people that were in hospitals basically growing up. Employment was not even, on the anywhere to be seen. And now you have this girl coming in and be like, so what do you want to do during the day? And they genuinely don't have the skills to be able to tell me that because they don't know. And that makes me so sad. And so what I hope I can do is give them this somewhat ability to kind of change the way they're thinking about work too, and what work can do for them. And even if it's volunteering, maybe I have someone who's not ready to be in community integrated employment. So maybe we volunteer at the shelter or at the food pantry. There's so many things that we can do. If someone doesn't want to work, that's one thing. But if someone does want to work and we don't facilitate, there has to be a really good reason, like a safety, a high risk reason why that person shouldn't work. Because our goal really is that everybody can have the opportunity and everybody can work to some degree.
Well, yeah, you even said volunteering. Volunteering is, especially if, financially that's not that meaningful to them, being able just to have access to build those relationships and do something engaging that makes them feel good is so important. So I love that you
100%.
Well, what can you share a success story? I'm sure you have many, but can you just off the top of your head just share
of course I can. We have a individual who has she has some medical issues, she has some psychiatric issues, and she has intellectual disability. She has had a rough go at life, some serious trauma, and we have to be real safe of where we want her to go in the community. And I was nervous about it. And she's been on the job, I think in December is going to be 2 years on the same job. It has not been easy. There's lots of going back and forth, lots of ups and downs, as you can imagine. But she wants more hours. She wants to, she just expresses herself differently even. it's an interesting to see how she was when I first met her versus now. I don't think realizes how much more she advocates for herself today than when I first met her. She is someone who said, she wants to be a dishwasher at like a family-owned restaurant. No, you don't. She likes to do her nails and all this. She doesn't want to wash dishes. Do you know what I mean? She just does it.
Yeah.
So let's all, because that's what you have done doesn't mean that's what you have to do. So if we can and I always say, if we can create the perfect job, what would that look like for you? And it's not always a cart collector at Jewel. It's not, it can be, some of them have the best ideas that you would never think of, but she is someone that has stuck with it and has had to swallow her pride a few times and go back to work and say, I was wrong. And so her ability to kind of navigate through that has been super impressive.
Yeah.
So she's a huge success. She works at Walmart. Yeah, I have a guy who's working at Portillo's. I think he's going, I don't know how long he's even been there. He was the first person I ever helped get a job with at IAG, and he's still killing it at Portillo's. He's got a set schedule. He knows what's expected. He gets his meal at the end of the shift. He is proud of himself for working, and to see even how his housemates react to him working. Some of them were like, wait a second, this job thing doesn't look that bad. And then you get interest from people who maybe never would have been interested in working. So as a community within a community, it's pretty cool to see how that plays out. And they get special attention. I mean, they do. Because if you work, you get me following you around and tracking you and being like, what's going on and checking in all the time. Versus if you don't work, you don't have me.
Yeah. And from a community aspect, like the representation. So somebody walking in that has a disability and they're seeing potentially somebody else, it gives them the hope of, hey, I can do this too.
Right. I also think like when we go in and meet with employers, I mean, they are typically still interview-like meetings. I call them job development meetings because I go in with most of them together and they feel 100 times better that they've got me. So if they can't express something because they have a disability, maybe they're autistic and it's hard for them, or a real bad stutter even. And if I am there to help kind of guide through it. One time a lady where were we? We were at Chick-fil-A and the hiring manager asked, what are you good at? And he couldn't, and this gentleman's good at so many things.
Yeah.
He couldn't verbalize it. And so, my big mouth, I spout in like, hey, I go, what he's really good at is what he's not telling you. He's really helpful to others. Like during the day program, you see him help other people maybe cook their food. Or if someone needs assistance because their eyesight's poor, he helps them get around. He's incredibly gracious. And he would never say that about himself. It wouldn't even cross his mind to say that. So I feel like I'm like backup. Like I go in and I help out.
Yeah.
They give me great confidence too, because I have people going for jobs that I don't believe they can do. I'm not going to set you up to fail because it's also reflective upon me. And I want us to be successful and I want you to be happy.
Yeah. And I'm sure that that's so great for them to hear those things from you.
I think so.
When somebody affirms those characteristics that maybe you weren't even aware of, you were just like, but that's just what I do. And I didn't even realize I was being nice,
Right.
So,
or else we expect some of our people who maybe have higher skill levels just to do that for those who don't. And really what that is an act of kindness and grace. And that's a huge, huge thing to bring to the workforce, especially nowadays where you don't see that often. I was just talking with an individual who I've worked with for, I think about 4 years now. And I really think he's at a place that maybe we find something even to the next step more meaningful. And he's such a helper around here with other individuals. And so I said, I don't know what this looks like, but what do you think? Like, what should we do next? And he gets this big smile. He's like, I don't know I could do anything next. And I was like, well, what do you mean? This isn't the rest of your life right now. I go, you're working, you're doing what you need to do. You're getting growth. So why don't we think about how you want to spend your time and what that looks like. And maybe there is some type of caregiving position that also involves food service. So if anyone has anything, let me know. But he, even like I was thinking like a retirement facility of like an activity aid and a dietary aid. He just has this really great way about him to make others more comfortable that, and he's so good at it here. I would love to see him be able to incorporate that into a job.
Yeah, that's so great. And I'm sure like through volunteering and mentoring opportunities, like it really like boosts their confidence too. I'm important, as they are.
100%. A job does so much for one's, in high school I had to get a job because I needed to put gas in my Honda Civic. I need, like, it wasn't to live. It wasn't like I had to have it. We also have a lot of, in our DCFS programs, kids that are aging out of the system that once they turn 21, they'll have to go live in a shelter. And I'm talking like a city shelter, not like a group home, a shelter. Mm-hmm. And so there is this, and we're just kind of exploring how this relationship will work with this population, but they need income. So a job for them is a whole different ball game than for other people. I would like to be able to help them not go into like an Aunt Martha's shelter. If they have to, we can figure it out. But if there's things that we can start doing now to be proactive, and DCFS does a great job with encouraging employment and education. I've been really impressed with the things that I've learned. So I'm hoping to kind of go in that direction a little bit too at IAG, is that we can start working with some of our younger folks that are going to be put out because they're going to age out.
Awesome. I'm going to pause here. Can you hear my son playing the piano?
Nope.
Okay, then I'm going to
I can't believe how quiet it is. It's over here.
Okay. I'm like, he just decided to go do a concerto downstairs. All right, so I'm just going to ask 2 more questions. Like, one will be, if somebody is listening to this and they want support finding a job, what is the best way to reach out? Somebody's listening to this and they're saying,
I have a job for them.
I want to work with you to employ people. So those will be the 2 questions. Just if you want to keep thinking about them, and then
No, all right. I'm good.
Okay. All right. So last 2 questions here. If somebody wants a job, if they're listening to this and they're like, I want that support, I think that I can do this, and I really want that, then how can they reach out to you, or what is their best way to move forward with that?
The best way, honestly, is to email me or have someone email for you or call. Now, I just kind of went the route that I didn't want to go about how you needed a computer or phone to get me. But the reality is I have to have some type of method of communication. Right. So my direct number at IAG is 630-488-5778. And then my email is Daly, DALY @IAGINC.org. And really, that's the best way, because I can go through some standard questions to see if you qualify for the program. If you don't, I can find some other options for you. I don't like to just leave someone with nothing. I've also have been known to kind of on the side say, oh, I know these people are hiring, you might not need my service, but it looks like you've experienced doing this. We really try to help everybody that has an interest in employment.
Yeah, that's great. And now on the employer side, if they're saying, hey, I feel really inspired and I want
to call me.
Yeah. Okay.
They call me. And the best
is there like a specific process? Do they have to like meet a specific requirement to work with you, or?
No. And in fact, if someone wanted to work with me and they don't already do some of this federal WOTC stuff, I can get them, like I've done applications with employers get them set up to do that. The other thing is, all because an employer calls me and says, hey, I need someone for this position. If I don't have someone, I'm not giving them just anybody. It's got to be a fit. It has to be a fit, or else the job maintenance is going to be disastrous. And so I right now have more jobs than I have people to fill them. And so, which is awesome for us, but there's so many people that want jobs that don't have access to us, that's what's disappointing, is that there's so many people missing out.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anybody is interested in providing even like some job skills training or anything, I'm always looking for new and fun ideas.
Now, what if somebody says, I have these volunteer opportunities? Would that be something that you're interested in as well? Mentorship?
Yeah,
volunteer,
of course. I don't necessarily 100%. What would happen is we would figure out what that volunteer opportunity looked like, what it would require, and then we would see who we have that would be a good fit for that, and figure out transportation, hours, and everything else like that. A lot of our volunteer positions do turn into paying positions down the road as well. Or there's a food pantry in Joliet that we worked at, that some of our individuals just have gained like the best experience, and now they're working in kitchens and stocking and things like that. So it is very concrete, the skills that they gain volunteering and putting them into practice.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, I don't say no often.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for your time. You are
Thanks
a
for
wealth of
having
knowledge.
me.
I hope that all of the people listening got a lot of value out of this. If you're looking for employment, please reach out to Jennifer. If you are an employer and you want to, work with anybody with a disability.
And we're all over the state too. I mean, we are in Peoria, Springfield, Quad City. So it's not just limited to like Chicagoland.
Yeah. Amazing. So statewide in Illinois. Now, are you also working in DC at the moment, or?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes.
From Illinois or DC? Okay.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. And we look forward to connecting with everybody on the next IAG Talks.